The University of Arizona's Old Main is the oldest building on campus. Built in 1887, the iconic building encapsulates the larger campus history of landscape evolution and innovation. It stands as the most recognizable structure at the heart of the University of Arizona. Architects designed the building with the Sonoran Desert setting in mind. High verandas, large windows, and a high roof are among the many features to help keep the building and its occupants cool in the desert. Used as a living laboratory, the landscape, design preferences, and plant selection around Old Main have changed over time. Landscape management practices have pivoted to address sustainability for urban deserts. Grasses and non-native plants from bygone eras have yielded to xeriscaped landscaping that support local desert wildlife. Water harvesting features on and around Old Main, including gutters, swales, basins, and dams, helped collect and distribute water to the surrounding xeriscape garden. This tour serves to highlight desert-adapted plants and water harvesting initiatives taken on campus to increase sustainability while preserving the beauty and educational value of the campus landscape.
Good morning, folks. I'm Hank Verbeas for the University of Arizona Campus Arboretum, and I'm here this morning with my co-host, Isa Barande, and we're going to take you on a really cool tour around Old Main. It's called Old Main, New Directions in Desert Landscaping in an Arid Environment. And speaking of desert landscaping, behind me is a perfect example of a Sonoran desert landscape. The plants, there's probably 10 or 12 species of plants behind me, but look at the sizes, the shapes, the colors, the textures. That's a beautiful representation of what we can do with our home gardens here in the Tucson area. And all of these plants are native to the Southwest, to the Sonoran Desert primarily, but some from the Chihuahuan Desert as well.
And Hank, everything looks so lush here. Do these plants get watered often?
Yeah, what a great question, Isa. Yes, they do get some water, and we'll see a little bit of that as we walk around campus. But the main way these plants get watered is through this really great passive water harvesting system. And that's one of the things we really like to stress on this tour, is the passive water harvesting. We get massive amounts of water that come off the roof of Old Main when we get good thunderstorms in the summer, and that rainwater is all directed to the plants.
And another question I have is, what makes a cactus a cactus?
I love this question. So every plant that's a cactus that's in the Cactaceae family has a little botanic feature called an areole, and you can see that on all cacti, and that contains meristematic or growing tissue. That's where the arms on a saguaro will emerge. That's where the flowers on all cactus will emerge. In fact, that's where the spines will emerge on all cactus. And by the way, spines are modified leaves, so somewhere in the distant evolutionary past of all cacti, those were leaves. The saguaro cactus of the genus Carnegie is not only a perfect example of a cactus species, but it's also the most iconic cactus silhouette in the Sonoran Desert. It's an indicator plant that will signify that you are, in fact, in the Sonoran Desert. Saguaros can get to be 50 feet tall. They can live 150 to 200 years. They have an upright structure and a waxy coating that helps retain moisture inside the plant. The pleats also expand and contract as the cactus takes on or loses water. And just like many other cacti, the saguaro stores water in its fleshy, succulent stems and can grow a crown of flowers and fruits rich with nectar. Saguaros can feed and shelter an ecosystem that's full of birds, mammals, reptiles, and insects. And the burrows in the saguaro cactus can house woodpeckers and small owls. Saguaros are efficient desert plant species that require no other water other than natural rainfall during our wet monsoon season, later in the summer, and during our gentle winter rains. In the desert, it thrives in rocky, well-drained soils, along washes, foothills, benches, and canyons.
Just like the saguaro, the creosote bush provides shelter for many animals, including lizards and the desert tortoise. The black-tailed jackrabbit is the only mammal that will eat the bitter leaves as a last resort. Seeds from the creosote bush are an important source of food for desert wood rats and kangaroo rats. Scientifically called Laurea tridentata, the creosote is an evergreen perennial desert shrub. It can grow up to 12 feet tall with gray knotted bark with swollen nodes. The other characteristic feature about the creosote is the aroma. The creosote leaves are small and waxy, which are adaptations to stop the water from evaporating. These leaves only photosynthesize during the cooler morning sunlight. In the dry season, the creosote leaves fold into itself and slightly take on a yellow-green hue to reduce sun exposure. One of the more unique attributes of creosote is its ability to produce satellite clones, which sprout up in a ring from the root crown. This extremely well-adapted desert shrub is capable of surviving for thousands of years. Some creosote bushes are said to be among the Earth's oldest living organisms. The creosote grows best in dry, rocky soils with low organic matter. In any desert garden, it can add shape, color, and its popular fragrant aroma during the monsoon season. Agaves are something else you see in most desert gardens. This one is the agave perii, or the Perry's agave. It has water-preserving adaptations characteristic of many desert plants, such as succulent leaves and a waxy cuticle preventing water transpiration. The leaves have marginal spines and a needle-like tip to protect the agave from herbivory. Its concave leaves are a feature to direct any rainwater directly to the roots of the agave. Perry's agave is a compact and medium-sized succulent. The other agave species can grow much larger. The flowering stalk of Perry's agave can grow up to 4 meters tall, producing panicles of numerous golden flowers with sweet nectar that attracts pollinators like bats, hummingbirds, and bees. Agave perii requires full sun exposure but can tolerate minimal shade. It is extremely cold hardy and grows best in well-drained sandy or fertile loam soils.
The desert willow, Chalopsis linearis, is a deciduous tree that can grow to 40 feet tall. It has an open crown with multiple trunks. The Warren Jones variety that we see here on campus has linear green leaves and dark brown bark. It has striking, large, fragrant flowers that bloom spring through summer. These trees are a host plant for the rustic sphinx moth larvae, providing a great food source for the large caterpillars that resemble tomato hornworms. The desert willow grows best in arid landscapes with less than 15 inches of annual rainfall and can survive minimal irrigation. It is tolerant of rocky and sandy soils with low organic matter. It's fast-growing, does best in well-drained limestone soils. The Campus Arboretum Tour Program, as well as the Master Gardener Program, which I'm a part of, are part of the University of Arizona's Cooperative Extension Program, which is under the umbrella of the U of A's land grant mission.
The Forbes Building, built in 1915, serves as the home base for the University of Arizona College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. It is one of the most far-reaching colleges on campus, and the 3 pillars that define our mission as a land-grant university are etched in stone above the front entrance: research, education, and extension. Built in 1903, Herring Hall is the second oldest building on campus. Famously, it once served as the university's gymnasium. Today, Herring Hall houses the UA Herbarium, a collection of more than 425,000 dried plant specimens. Some of these specimens have been preserved for almost a century. The Robert L. Gilbertson Mycological Herbarium is also housed at the Herring Hall. It is comprised of more than 40,000 dried fungal specimens and over 100,000 strains of endophytic fungi that were amassed over time by faculty and researchers. Olnea tessota, the ironwood tree, is a member of the Fabaceae family that can grow up to 45 feet tall, with bark that ranges in color from gray to white. The ironwood's branches are covered in small spines that are either curved or upright. Ironwood trees are habitat-modifying keystone species because their presence strongly influences abundance, distribution, and survival of over 500 Sonoran Desert species. Like all members of the Fabaceae family, these trees are a legume species that can modify the soil composition by increasing nitrogen and other key nutrients. Ironwoods are considered nurse plants since the canopies create heat-relieving microclimates that protect and allow seedlings to establish themselves. Ironwoods are a popular breeding and nesting area for both migrating and local birds. In the Arizona upland region, ironwood seeds mature at a time when few other desert plants are producing fruit. As a result of this, wildlife is highly dependent on these seeds as a food source. The ironwood tree is a drought-tolerant species that does well in full sun and reflected heat. Young leaves and stems are covered with fine hairs that protect the plant from sunlight. During the blooming season, the ironwood will lose its leaves but immediately regrow them once the flowers wither. The slow-growing desert ironwood is one of the strongest, largest, and longest-living desert tree species. The common name comes from dense iron-like wood that will sink in water.
The pink and red fairy dusters that we see around campus and here on the Old Main tour, the Coleandra areophila and Coleandra californica, are great desert shrubs. They can grow to be 3 feet tall with woody, light gray stems. They have bipinnately compound leaves, and there are 2 species around Old Main. It's popular with pollinators. The small surface area of its leaves allow fairy dusters to conserve water during dry climates. The compound leaves help prevent water loss from transpiration and help the plants avoid reaching hotter temperatures that cause water loss. These shrubs do well in the desert environment, thriving in full sun, needing little maintenance or water once established. It's a beautiful accent plant for any xeriscaped garden.
Another icon of the Southwest is the velvet mesquite tree, also known as Prosopis velutina, which can grow up to 50 feet tall. This desert mainstay has a dark brown trunk covered with thick bark that peels off in long, narrow strips. Many will know it for the pair of sharp spines found on each node along its long, low-hanging branches. These are part of the tree's defense mechanism against herbivores. The roots of the mesquite tree can find subsurface water as deep as 150 to 200 feet. Mesquites easily outperform and outcompete other species. Like the ironwood, the mesquite provides a variety of resources to its ecosystem. It provides shelter and nutrients for birds, mammals, insects, and other plants. The mesquite tree should be planted in full sun, needing little water once established. It can be planted in a variety of soil types, from rocky to fertile.
So Isa, here we are at the crested saguaro right behind us. Let's take a look at that. That's a beautiful plant. I love the fact that it's got 3 or 4 arms. It's got a lot of flowers on it. In fact, some of the flowers and fruits have fallen off already. And the crested saguaro is a really unique plant here on campus. I think this may be only one of 2 or 3 that are on campus, but it's got, plenty of arms. It looks pretty healthy. People love when we talk about this and bring them to this spot when we do our campus arboretum tours. And while we're here, remember before we talked about water harvesting, all the water from Old Main comes down several downspouts. The water comes down, comes through this little swales and check dams, and that gives the water a chance to spread out, slow down and water all of the plants right in front of us, because then we don't have to do any irrigation for these plants. There are several species of prickly pear cactus around Old Main, including the Opuntia engelmannii, which we see here. This plant has large, flat, and fleshy spine-covered pads. Yellow flowers with edible, purplish-reddish fruits appear in the summer. These fruits offer food for humans, animals, and insects. The pollen and nectar from the flowers draw in many pollinators. The spiny pads themselves act as a micro-ecosystem for the cochineal scale insects. These insects have a bright red dye when crushed. This carmine dye is the historic reason for the plant's distribution across Europe and other parts of the world.
The Phoenix dactylifera, or the true date palm, is an evergreen desert tree that can grow up to a towering 75 feet. It has large gray-green frond-like leaves at the top of a rough trunk with a diamond pattern. These desert species can also be multi-stemmed, producing offshoots at the base. The additional trunks help store water for future use. This plant species is also dioecious, meaning different trees carry male and female flowers. One date palm tree alone can produce up to 200 pounds of dates, which are a sweet and nutritious food source for birds, insects, and other animals. Humans have been consuming these fruits as early as 4000 BC. True date palms do well in full sun and require little water and limited space. They grow best in well-drained, neutral to acidic soil.
Maria, did you know you can find the female plant of this species on the east side of Old Main? This particular tree was a gift from Iraqi students in 1955 to the Dean of the College of Agriculture, Philip Eckert, for his support in helping establish a College of Agriculture in Iraq. The jojoba, Simonsia chinensis, is the only species in its genus. This plant can grow to 6 feet tall. It has stiff branches with leathery gray-green, narrow and elliptical leaves. This drought-deciduous plant can shed its leaves during extremely dry seasons. This plant is also dioecious, which means there's a separate plant that has male flowers and a separate plant with female flowers. The female flowers are bell-shaped and pale. The male flowers appear in clusters below the branch. Animals like mule deer, bighorn sheep, jackrabbits, and other rodents consume the foliage and seeds. We humans use a waxy resin from the jojoba fruits to produce natural skincare products. The jojoba leaves point upward to minimize light exposure, especially during the hottest parts of the day. These plants prefer to be planted in full sun, require very little water once established, and thrive in dry, rocky, sandy soils.
The European olive tree, Olea europaea, is a slow-growing evergreen tree that can reach up to 30 feet in height. These recognizable trees can live and produce olives for hundreds of years, providing a nutritious food source for humans, birds, and small rodents. The wildlife also serves as the primary mode of seed dispersal for the drought-adapted tree. Unlike other fruit trees, the long-living olive trees are better adapted to poor quality soils, thanks in part to its long root systems that give it access to groundwater even during times of drought. Olive trees thrive in a range of partial shade to full sun. They can be planted in dry soils with low organic matter. Hey Hank, did you know that the olive trees on the west side of campus are amongst the oldest trees at the university? And since 1986, they've been banned in Pima County because they produce lots of pollen.
The blue palo verde, Parkinsonia florida. This is a 25-foot tall, medium-sized, fast-growing tree that has a loose, spreading crown with blue-green photosynthetic trunk and stems. The branches are covered in small blue-green bipinnately compound leaves that cover the canopy with bright golden yellow flowers during the spring. The tree continues to photosynthesize using its bark even after losing its leaves during hot, dry summer months. The flowers are showy and full of nectar, a popular draw for pollinators. Fruits are a good food source for animals, insects, birds, and even we humans. The blue Palo Verde requires full sun and can tolerate medium to dry, sandy, or loamy, well-drained soils. Its roots are well adapted to seeking out water resources during dry months, and its canopy can offer shade and climate protection to younger cacti growing underneath. Okay, folks, thanks for coming today. That wraps it up for our Campus Arboretum tour, Old Main, New Directions in Desert Landscaping. And if you like this tour, visit us at the University of Arizona Campus Arboretum website for information on the additional tours that we do. And for my co-hosts, Maria and Isa, thanks for coming. I'm Hank Verbeas. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Did you guys have breakfast this morning? No, I'm starved. Here, check these out. One for you and one for you. Yeah, they're so good.